Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It's time for Lombardi Memories, a show that takes you back in time, into January or February, to the greatest one-day spectacle in all of sports. This is the Every Other Tuesday podcast that looks back at each and every one of the 50+ Super Bowls and tells the story of who won and why. For the fan who needs more than just a box score, this podcast goes drive by drive, play by play, through the most dramatic games in history. I'm your host, Tommy A. Phillips, and you can visit my website at tommyaphillips.com, where you can find all of my books. Today we have Super Bowl X, which was held on January 18, 1976, at the Miami Orange Bowl, in Miami of course, between the back-to-back AFC Champion Pittsburgh Steelers and the 3-time NFC Champion Dallas Cowboys. As always, we have a pop quiz and then homework at the end of the episode. The pop quiz question for today is, what major movie was filmed at Super Bowl X? The answer will come at the end of the podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers were an absolute powerhouse in 1975. They started out 1-1, then didn't lose another game until the season finale, which was meaningless to them. They blew out most of their opponents, including the second-place Cincinnati Bengals twice. Perhaps if they would have beaten Buffalo early in the season, they come into Week 14 undefeated and they go for the undefeated season. Simply put, this team was an utter juggernaut. Terry Bradshaw was now fully installed as the starting quarterback. He threw for over 2,000 yards, tossing 18 touchdowns as opposed to just 9 interceptions. His passer rating was 88.0, which isn't great in today's NFL, but it was stellar back then. Running back Franco Harris had a huge year, rushing for 1,246 yards and 10 touchdowns, while also catching 28 passes for 214 yards and a touchdown. Rocky Bleier, the backup running back, ran for 528 yards and 2 scores. Lynn Swann led the receiving corps with 49 catches for 781 yards and 11 touchdowns. The Steelers blew out Baltimore 28-10 in the divisional round before eking by the Raiders 16-10 in the AFC Championship game. Both games were played in Pittsburgh as the days of rotational home field advantage were over. As for Dallas, they were not on the level of the Steelers. They lost 3 or 4 games at mid-season, and they suffered a big loss to St. Louis late in the season. The Cardinals won the NFC East as a result, making the Cowboys a wild card at 10-4. The Cowboys were led by quarterback Roger Staubach, who threw for over 2,600 yards and 17 touchdowns. He did have 16 interceptions, though, making his passer rating below Bradshaw's at 78.5. His top receiver was Drew Pearson, who hauled in 46 balls for 822 yards and 8 touchdowns. Running back Robert Newhouse had 930 yards on the ground, while Doug Dennison led the team in rushing touchdowns with 7. In one of the most famous games in NFL history, the Cowboys took on the Vikings in the divisional round in Minnesota. Remember, there was no wildcard game back then. The wildcard team automatically made it to the divisional round. The Cowboys trailed 14-10 late in the game when Staubach launched what he called a Hail Mary to Drew Pearson for the game-winning touchdown. The Cowboys won 17-14, and the name Hail Mary stuck. The Cowboys then went to Los Angeles and blew out the Rams 37-7 to become the first wildcard in NFL history to advance to the Super Bowl. Remember, the second-place Chiefs of Super Bowl IV were not a wildcard, as they had an automatic playoff berth for finishing second. So, entering the game, the Steelers were a 7-point favorite. Kicker Roy Gerela booted the ball away to start Super Bowl X, and running back Preston Pearson brought it in for Dallas. He gave the ball on a reverse to linebacker Tom Henderson, and he returned it 52 yards all the way to the Pittsburgh 44. Steelers defensive end L.C. Greenwood forced a Staubach fumble on the very first play of the game, but Cowboys center John Fitzgerald recovered it. The Cowboys ended up punting. Steelers head coach Chuck Noll ran 5 straight run plays, one of which got a first down. The remainder came up short, and the Steelers had a punt. On the kick, punter Bobby Walden fumbled the snap, and the Cowboys tackled him for a loss inside the Pittsburgh 30. Then Staubach fired over the middle, threw to Drew Pearson for a 29-yard touchdown, and Dallas went up 7-0. Starting at their own 32, the Steelers began their new drive with an 8-yard run by Harris. He picked up a first down 2 plays later, and then Blyer ran for another 5 yards. Bradshaw then heaved the one downfield for Lynn Swann, who made a fantastic catch at the Dallas 15 for a first down. 3 plays later, Bradshaw hit tight end Randy Grossman for a 7-yard touchdown. Gerela's extra point was deflected, but it made it over the crossbar to tie the game at 7 at the end of one quarter. The Cowboys got back at their own 33. Running back Robert Newhouse ran for 7 yards, then Dennison pounded it up the middle for a first down. Staubach passed to Fugit for 9 yards into Pittsburgh territory. Then Newhouse took a draw for a first down. Preston Pearson, Dennison, and Newhouse all combined for 9 more yards, setting up 4th and inches. And Cowboys head coach Tom Landry said, "Let's go for it." And they got it. Dennison picked up the first down. But they weren't able to get in the end zone. They settled for a 36-yard field goal by kicker Tony Fritz. And the Cowboys went up 10-7. The Steelers also took over at their own 33-yard line. Blyer ran for 5 yards, then Bradshaw scrambled for a first down to the 45. Harris blasted the ball into Dallas territory, and he got a first down at the 44. Bradshaw found receiver John Stallworth at the 37, and that set up 4th and short. So Noel kept his forces out there, and they went for it on 4th down, but Bradshaw's pass for Franco Harris was broken up by defensive back Cliff Harris, and the Steelers turned it over on downs. Not much happened on the next two drives. The Cowboys moved the ball on the drive after those two, with Staubach beginning the drive with a 9-yard pass to Preston Pearson. He get the first down on another pass to Preston Pearson before hitting running back Charlie Young for a first down at the 21. Cowboys looked poised to score, but then Greenwood made a sack of Staubach for a loss of 12, and defensive end Dwight White got a sack on the next play. The Cowboys were forced to punt it away, and the ball went out of bounds at the Pittsburgh 6. So, way back in their own territory, Bradshaw faced 3rd and long, and he decided to throw the long bomb for Lynn Swann. And that is when Swann made the spectacular leaping, diving catch that you always see in the highlight clips for the Super Bowl. What's interesting to note, though, is that despite that catch from Swann, the Steelers failed to score in the drive. They got stopped just inside the 20, where Jarrella missed a 36-yard field goal wide to the left. The teams went to the locker rooms with Dallas leading 10-7. The Steelers started the second half with a 3-and-out. Staubach then gave the ball right back on an interception thrown to defensive back J.T. Thomas, who returned it to the Dallas 25. But the Steelers again got no points. Harris had run for a first down inside the 15, but the drive stalled there, and then Jarrella missed a field goal attempt wide to the left. After the kick, Cowboys defensive back Cliff Harris, who already had a pass breakup earlier in the game, he tapped Jarrella on the head, presumably to taunt him. Steelers linebacker Jack Lambert wasn't having any of it, and he tackled Harris. It's just interesting to note that neither team was penalized on the play. The Cowboys got one first down on the next drive after a 9-yard run by Preston Pearson and a Newhouse run to move the sticks. They punted shortly afterward, though. Pittsburgh took over at their own 24. Bradshaw hit Swann for another reception at the 39, getting a first down. The Steelers' drive stalled, and they had to punt it down to the 18-yard line. The Cowboys proved unable to score on their drive as well, despite some good ball movement. They punted it away, and Pittsburgh took over as the fourth quarter began, with Dallas still leading by 3. Bradshaw started the new drive with a pass to Harris down the sideline. He caught it and sprinted towards the end zone. But it wasn't going to be a touchdown. He was ruled out of bounds at the Pittsburgh 43 for a 26-yard gain, but not what he wanted. He wanted the whole thing, the touchdown. And then Cowboys defensive tackle Randy White sacked Bradshaw to end the Pittsburgh drive. Fortunately for them, Walden got off a beautiful punt down to the 18-yard line. It was a 57-yard kick, and it drastically changed field position. The Cowboys then tried a flea flicker, but Thomas sniffed it out and sacked Staubach at the 13-yard line. On third down, Greenwood, Dwight White, and defensive end Steve Furness combined for a sack of Staubach. The Cowboys were forced to punt from deep in their own territory. Punter Mitch Hoffs had his kick blocked by Reggie Harrison, and the ball went out of the end zone for a safety. Running back Mike Collier returned a free kick to the Dallas 45. It was a good return, and Harris started a new drive with a 5-yard run before getting the first down 2 plays later. Bradshaw scrambled for 9 more yards, setting up a field goal attempt. This time, Jarrella nailed the 36-yard field goal, and Pittsburgh took the lead 12-10. So to start out the next drive, defensive back Mike Wagner picked off Staubach's pass on first down, and he returned it to the 5-yard line. However, Pittsburgh couldn't punch it in, even after getting down to the 1 on a Bradshaw scramble. They settled for an 18-yard Jarrella field goal, and that increased their lead to 15-10. The Cowboys went 3-and-out with Greenwood, Furness, and defensive tackle Ernie Holmes converging on another sack for Pittsburgh. With 5 minutes to go, the Cowboys kicked it away, and Steelers defensive back Glenn Edwards returned it to the Pittsburgh 30. They wanted to go to work on the clock, running the ball twice with Harris, but their mindset changed on 3rd and long. Bradshaw threw another one of his bombs downfield, and Swan made a spectacular catch for a 64-yard touchdown. On the play, Bradshaw was hit late, and he was knocked out of the game with a concussion. There was no flag on the play, though, but there definitely should have been. Jarrella missed the extra point attempt off the left upright, and Pittsburgh led 21-10. In desperation mode, the Cowboys were at their best. Staubach went deep for Drew Pearson for 30 yards, and then after Dwight White picked up a sack, it was a 2-minute warning, and Staubach got everything back on the next play. He threw down the left sideline to a wide-open Percy Howard for a touchdown. The Cowboys were now down by just 4. The onside kick failed as Jerry Mullins recovered it for Pittsburgh. Backup quarterback Terry Hanratty was now in the game for Pittsburgh, but he didn't pass. Instead, the Steelers just ran the ball in 3 straight plays. Then came 4th and 8 with 1:28 to go. Cowboys had to use up all their timeouts to stop the clock. And Chuck Noll decided that punting was too risky, so he had the Steelers run a handoff to Blyer, which picked up very little. The ball went over to Dallas at their own 39 with 1:22 left on the clock. That was way too much time to leave Staubach. Staubach grabbed a low snap and scrambled to the Dallas 49-yard line, getting a first down. But he was in bounds, so the clock ran all the way under a minute to go. On another low snap, Staubach threw to Preston Pearson, who got a first down inside the Pittsburgh 38. But he too remained in bounds, and the clock ticked under 30 seconds. Fitzgerald, the center, got off his worst snap yet, which Staubach barely picked up and threw away in time. There were now just 12 seconds left in the game. Staubach threw a Hail Mary to the right corner of the end zone, but it fell incomplete. 3 seconds left. Final play of the game, Staubach threw to the end zone over the middle, but it was intercepted by defensive back Glenn Edwards, and the Steelers had won their second Super Bowl 21-17. Lynn Swan was named MVP of Super Bowl X for his amazing, spectacular performance. Those 4 catches, all for big gains. But who would have won the award if not for him? I'd have to go with L.C. Greenwood. He was in on so many great defensive plays, and Pro Football Reference has him down for 4 sacks. If sacks were an official statistic at the time, he'd still hold the Super Bowl record for sacks, which is currently 3. I'm not sure exactly how accurate that number of 4 is, but I believe it. He was in on every big play. Who's the most valuable player on the losing team? That I'd have to give to Staubach. He had a great start and a great finish to this game, but the Pittsburgh defense kept him in check most of the game. But even so, he was just one pass away from winning this game and making this an all-time comeback. As for the least valuable player, it's really hard to pick one. I'd actually have to go with a player on the winning team, and that is Jarrella. Yes, he made two field goals and an extra point, but he also missed 2 field goals and an extra point. If he makes all those kicks, this isn't even a close game at the end. Dallas would have never had a chance if he could have just converted those short kicks. The best player from this game that you've never heard of, well, that's kind of difficult because the Steelers and Cowboys are so well known that it's hard for me to pick one that you haven't heard of. But I'm going to go with Steelers running back Mike Collier. He had a big return of the free kick after the safety, which set up the go-ahead field goal by Jarrella. Without his big return, maybe the Steelers don't score there, and who knows what happens. The biggest play of this game was obvious. Swan's touchdown catch late in the fourth quarter. I don't think there's any arguing that. Swan's catch made it a 2-score game and seemed to put the game away. As it turned out, he didn't put away the game totally, but that touchdown proved to be the winning margin. The biggest play no one remembers, though, that's the sack on the flea flicker attempt by Dallas. Thomas got the sack on the play, J.T. Thomas, and instead of the Cowboys getting a big play, they got backed up farther, which set up the block punt for a safety. Imagine what happens if Staubach connects with a long bomb on that play. Then Dallas goes up 17-7. This game's totally different. Thomas's big sack changed everything. Speaking of bombs, it was a bomb inside the Goodyear blimp that it was attempted to be set off in the Orange Bowl during the Super Bowl. Not in real life, of course, but in the movie Black Sunday. That is the answer to today's pop quiz question. Black Sunday was filmed with some footage from this game itself right at the Orange Bowl. Later, more filming was done at the Orange Bowl after the Super Bowl. I've never actually seen that film, but I have seen the moment the blimp crashes into the Orange Bowl. It's a truly bizarre movie. So I've got just some short homework for you this time, and this book is named Super Steelers, The Making of a Dynasty by Lou Sahadi. This one isn't specific to Super Bowl X, but it will give you all you need to know about the entire dynasty of the 70s Steelers. This book is a little older, so it'll be harder to find, but it's really big in size. It's worth it. Next time we've got Super Bowl 11. John Madden's Oakland Raiders try to win their first Super Bowl against the Minnesota Vikings playing in their 4th Super Bowl. Can Madden lead the Raiders to a 16-1 record, or will the Vikings spoil that and come away with their first title? This is Tommy A. Phillips signing off. You'll find out all that stuff next week, and you can find my work at TommyAPhillips.com. Until then, so long.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of FilmMusic.io.